So there's a lot of information, maybe misinformation, that says that meat is inflammatory. Is
Yeah.
that not true then?
Yeah, it's completely false. And so any of the studies that say, oh, look, meat is inflammatory, it raises CRP, it raises SED rate, it raises whatever, typically those are based on food frequency questionnaire collected observational data. And so, which means these people were eating a mixed diet. And so, for example, you could have somebody in the arm of that research study who's super sensitive to oxalates, right? And so they ate some meat, but they ate it on a bun with French fries, fried in peanut oil, and then they had a hot fudge cake for dessert. And so, but they reported that they ate meat. And then when you check their SED rate, it's like, oh, their SED rate's high, their CRP's high. Well, okay, and they reported eating meat, so therefore it must. Well, that's silly. And there are more and more scientists coming out and calling out nutrition research for what it is. The current stuff, basically all other scientific disciplines laugh at modern nutrition research. It's literally a joke at not only how it's conducted, but also how it's interpreted. And so, if you want to just do an observational study with food frequency questionnaires, which are notoriously unreliable, and you want to post that and say, well, look, I found this. It's got a hazard ratio of 1.02. Maybe that means something. But the danger comes is when the researchers and then the headlines of mainstream media, when they interpret that observational research with just the tiniest showing of possible data, possible association, and they say things like red meat shown to increase inflammation in the human body. Well, the average person reads the headline and maybe one or two paragraphs, and that they walk away from that article thinking it's proven that red meat causes inflammation. I mean, I saw it in the USA Today or in the New England Journal of Medicine. Many doctors fall for this foolishness, and many dietitians fall for this as well, not realizing that, first of all, if you read the entire article, it'll say it in there somewhere. The researchers will say something like, well, we found that eating, increased amounts of red meat may initiate inflammation in the human body. There's a key word in that sentence, isn't there, Judy?
Right.
May. What is equal to may? May not. In that sentence, they are interchangeable. Red meat might, you can exchange that with might not. Red meat red meat could possibly not. But people don't think that way when they see it framed a certain way. They just accept that as a fact, even though it really wasn't portrayed as a fact in the research study, definitely. But many times in the newspaper article or the website article, if you read the entire article, down there somewhere, the word may or might or possibly occurs, which means that you can insert may not, probably not, possibly not, which means this research study tells you nothing.
Right. And I think a lot of these studies, as you said, if they use food frequencies, we don't remember what we ate even 2 days ago. So when
Right.
they're documenting these people or following them loosely with just questionnaires, we don't even know how accurate their responses are. And if there's just one factor of eating meat, again, it's not it's different in context. Just like there's studies where they will say that they're showing high fat, but the high fat is with high carbs. So
Yeah.
there's always this nuance and context that's missing in the headlines, as you say. And often, like you said, in the headlines, it's missing a lot of the context that's even in the study. But most people don't have time to watch or read the studies and see all the nuances. And that's where I think, like you're saying, most people or most scientists laugh at nutritional
Yeah.
research because it's not really evidence based, or is it clinical trials or things like that?
Exactly. And a great is for any nutrition researchers that may be watching this. I'm sure there's one or two. A great study would be to take 200 people eating a mixed diet, just an omnivorous diet, right? And one arm of the study for the next 30 days, they will eat only beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And you can do that. You could pay them $100 a day if that's really onerous for them. And then the other group would eat no animal products whatsoever, just eat a vegetarian vegan diet for the next 30 days. You would check all of the inflammatory markers before they started their 30-day trial. And then you would check the markers once a week or once a day
Right.
during that trial. And then at the end of that 30 days, you could actually say something about it looks like the people who are on beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, all of their inflammatory markers, surprisingly, went down. And all of the inflammatory markers in the other group either stayed the same or went up, which is what I predict. They would stay the same to go up on a plant-based diet. Then you could that would be a research study worthy of being published. And then researchers could be like, holy crap, let's do a 90-day version of that just to see if maybe that was artifact. I don't know. I wonder if we could find 100 people to do a year-long beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And then at the end of that year, when all of their inflammatory markers were stone cold normal, do you see how just that simple study design that would shut all of the foolishness up until the end of time? It's like, no, these people ate beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for a year, and all their inflammatory markers were gorgeous the entire year. Shut up about meat being inflammatory.
So not stating the obvious, but why doesn't a study like that occur?
Well, so there's multiple reasons. Many of the department chairs in departments of nutrition at the bigger universities, they are sold on a plant-based diet. They believe it in their heart of hearts, and people think, oh no, science is objective. No, all the scientists in the world are just dudes and chicks, just like you are sitting there listening to this. They have preconceived notions, they have biases, they have beliefs. And if a young researcher took my study I just talked about to their department chair and said, hey, I'd like to end once and for all this bullshit about meat being inflammatory. Here's the study I want to do. That young researcher would be kicked out of the department chair's office, because they would think, well, that would actually be harmful. I don't think that would get past the ethics committee. If you wanted to feed someone beef, butter, bacon, and eggs exclusively for a month, that would probably do permanent harm to them. No, we're not going to conduct that study. That's number one. Number two, all research needs money to actually fund the research, right? And so which big food manufacturer, you think Kellogg's or General Mills or Mondelez or Kraft Heinz, would they sponsor that research study? Now, you would think that the big beef producers like JBS, Cargill, Archer Daniels, Midland, US Beef, you'd think they would sponsor that. But what most people don't know about those huge billion-dollar corporations is that they're actively investigating in fake meat investing in fake meat, and investing in plant-based meat, and investing in lab-grown meat. They don't want to talk about just meat that actually comes from an animal. They want to talk about plant-based meat or lab-grown meat, because they believe in their heart of hearts. Again, those CEOs are just dudes and chicks with preconceived notions. They think that's the future because it's very popular right now to talk about that. So they also wouldn't be interested in funding that study. The only way to ever fund that study is if we were to crowdsource with your people, my people, Sean Baker's people, and just basically raise $300,000 or $400,000 and then give that money to cement researchers who did. And obviously we don't want to run the research, because then it would be biased. All the plant-based people say, oh, Dr. Berry was involved, So give the money anonymously with an anonymous, this is how we want the study run, go at it, and then let impartial researchers run that study. That's really the only way that study will ever be done.